Hello, BookTube. Just because I haven't mentioned the techpocalypse that is engulfing Hyde Cottage lately doesn't mean it isn't still happening. It is still happening. I am still wrestling with ordinary pieces of technology that I did not need to wrestle with a week ago. All of them seem to be failing at the same time, which is really pushing me in a direction I hardly need pushing, which is to buy more tech, when obviously, I have enough tech here. It's not a question of getting more tech, it's a question of getting the tech I have to behave. But I'm hoping that this video works without any glitches, without any stops, without anything like that. Because this is a mail haul, and you can't redo a mail haul, right? The Christmas morning thrill of opening packages together can't be duplicated just by showing you new books. But before we get to the books, we have some periodicals. Like, for instance, the latest issue of Analog. Even though I have complained that Analog and Asimov are not reaching me on time or at all, that my subscription seems to have gone down a well, I got Asimov's and now I have the latest Analog. And they're duplicates, of course, because I had my surly houseboy go out and buy the issues. I don't want to miss them, just because my subscription seemed to misfire. And I don't quite know what's going on. I don't quite know what explains it. There's one old and well-established science fiction author who often writes for Analog, who watches this channel. And I'm hoping that he did not put a word in with anybody at Analog. I wasn't complaining in the sense of demanding my money back. I know that magazines need their subscription money. But one way or another, I got the latest Analog. This has, as you can see, the Unlikely Heroines of Callisto Station by Marie Vibert, who is also prominently featured in this month's Asimov's or Fantasy and Science Fiction. A good month for her. But I haven't read anything in this issue yet. I'm still working on Asimov's. I haven't read anything in this issue yet except a piece of nonfiction, the piece of nonfiction that I commented on last time. There's an article in here. I should probably attribute it, right? There's an article in here by Richard Lovett on the new science looking at speculative geophysical models about what Venus, the planet Venus, might have been like 750 million years ago. And those models increasingly look like the planet Venus would have been an absolute Garden of Eden. Beautiful place, lots and lots of water, gentle mountains, probably a very mild climate. And then about 710 million years ago, there was a volcanic event, a worldwide volcanic event of gigantic proportions. The planet's surface basically blew up. And the chemical balance of the gases in the atmosphere changed to such a point that it became a greenhouse runaway nightmare. But the hypothetical images of that pre-volcanic eruption Venus were amazing. They were amazing to look at. It was amazing to read that, and of course to think. Of course, I thought about Carson of Venus, Edgar Rice Burroughs, and of course, I wanted to write a story. It looks, from what those models seem to indicate, like Venus would have been a mild, beautiful, blue-skied, blue-water planet for billions of years. So it could easily have developed life. Some of that life might even have developed fairly quickly, might become fairly complex. Who knows? We don't have any yardstick to know how long such things take. We only have Earth, where things happened over a very long period of time. What happens if that's not true? Or not as true? It naturally tempted me, of course, in November. Myself and a group of other booktubers are doing New Worlds November, a big science fiction-oriented event designed to just celebrate science fiction, especially short-form science fiction this time around. And I decided pretty much as soon as I joined that group and started hearing about that event, that my NaNoWriMo project for this year, National Novel Writing Month in November, the same month as the event, would be science fiction. And I already know the story that I want to write for that, but now I'm extremely tempted to do another one, to do a classic science fiction story in which there is no science fiction, just a visit to that world, to that Venus of long ago. Imagine it. You wouldn't have been able to live or be very comfortable on the surface of Earth at that time. But imagine if you could stand on the surface of Earth 800 million years ago and look through a telescope, even a cheap telescope. Imagine seeing a blue world in the sky. Imagine what that would be like. One way or another, I will dig into all of the fiction in this issue. And then we got a bunch of periodicals, including the Martha's Vineyard Gazette. This is a big broadsheet newspaper printed for the island of Martha's Vineyard off the coast of Massachusetts. This issue has two separate parts to it, Vineyard Living and just the main part of the paper. It doesn't always have that. Sometimes the issue is just one section. And in the middle of in the news section, you have the Vineyard Bookshelf by yours truly, The Rise and Fall of Dodo, a sequel to the time-traveling novel of a couple of years ago. This one featuring, among other people, the Master of Revels in Elizabethan England, Edmund Tilney. As I mentioned in my review, probably this is the closest he'll ever get to a historical novel. If he's actually had a historical novel, and I don't know about it, feel free to let me know. A lot of you will remember him, the character of Edmund Tilney, as immortally played by Simon Callow in Shakespeare in Love. But he was the country's foremost censor. And oddly, he surfaces, he comes forward in the book as a prominent character. But the book was very entertaining, and it's always nice to have a book review of mine in the Vineyard Gazette. Always nice. Then we have the new New Yorker. Very alluring cover there. Not quite sure the significance. What's the title of this thing? And who's it by? Pride and Joy is the name of the title, and is the name of the cover, and it's by Nicole Rifkin. It's a nice little moment. My favorite New Yorker covers are always covers that capture little moments that you don't expect would be captured in the cover of a magazine. I always like those best. Probably one of my all-time favorites was by Homer Tenuka, of a young couple in a warmly yellow, tiny New York apartment, looking from bed out at a New York snowstorm outside in the gray outside cold world. I love that cover. Just love it. But there was also another one that also captures a brief little quotidian moment that I thought was very funny and very nice. I don't remember who did it, but it was a cover of a young woman at a poolside, and she has her hand up like this in a kind of a wordless gesture of alarm, and on the surface of the pool are concentric little circles, and at the bottom is her cell phone. I wish I could. I'll find out who did that cover. This issue was notable mainly for an article on Joe Manchin. Those of you who know your American politics will know the figure of Joe Manchin. He and Mitch McConnell are the most powerful people in the country. You'd never guess why, but they are, nevertheless. One for a weird insistence on bipartisanship, and one for a willingness to torch the government in order not to make sure that his political opponents never gain anything that they want, even if the plurality of the populace is behind what they want. And the piece is by Evan Osnos, who we've already seen. We saw him do Wildland. We got an advance copy of his book coming out in the fall called Wildland, about America's rage. But I'm not going to read Wildland this far ahead. But that doesn't apply to his periodical literature. So I read the piece of his, which is called Undecided Voter, and which was excellent. If his book is written as well as this article, then I'm in for a treat. The article itself, of course, was absolutely infuriating. In 2021, absolutely infuriating. Bipartisanship is an absolutely great deal. It is a dream. It is the thing that you want. It is the way that shows that a healthy participatory democracy is working, but there is no way to gain bipartisan cooperation if one party wants bipartisan cooperation in order to do what's best for their constituents, and the other party wants to destroy the United States of America. If the other party is against the American experience, they don't want democracy, they don't want participation, they don't want fairness, and they're okay with an armed insurrection to overthrow the government if their guy wins. They'll condemn it if he doesn't, but they're okay with it they're okay with him trying it. They don't want you to examine who's behind that. They don't want you to examine any details of it or assess any culpability. The peons that actually wave the Trump banners, you can arrest as many of them as you want, but we don't really want to examine any more about an armed insurrection to overthrow the government. Bipartisanship doesn't work between those two poles. It works between Democrat and Republican. It doesn't work between Democrat and eagerly hopeful neo-Nazi. So the article was infuriating, but it was really well done. And then the last periodical of the batch was the TLS, the London Times Literary Supplement, which had a number of very interesting things in it. But the thing that interested me most was the very first article by Paul Griffiths, a review of 3 books about Mozart, including one by John Swafford that I really want to read, that I think is coming to me, and I really want to read it. The article was very good, very knowledgeable about Mozart, and also very stern about all 3 books, which is always nice. Roundup reviews are difficult to do. No matter how much this one had in it, a very generous amount of space. Try doing a 3-book roundup in 800 words. It's not easy to do. It's especially not easy to assess the books critically in that much space. You've got 200 something words per book. And you have, as you remember from our basic courses on book reviewing, no matter how little space you have, you still have to describe what the book is to your readers. You still have to tell them about it. And if your space is 220 words, oh my, that gets brutal. That gets very brutal. So and the temptation among people, reviewers, even seasoned reviewers who do roundup reviews, is to skip the critical analysis, just describe the books for 800 or 900 words or whatever. And this doesn't do that. It has a little more space, but it's very, very pleasing anyway. And then we have the books, including a box. We'll do the box last. So let's see. We have briefly attracted the bean's attention. Ooh, baby. Who knows how long it will last. Let's see what this first one is. Oh, fantastic. Oh, my. Oh, great. Okay. I actually ordered a copy of this from the Amazon Marketplace because I did what I say on this channel I am going to stop doing. I packed up my own copy of this in order to send it to someone. I have to stop doing that. I just have to. But if I'm going to do that, at least I can follow through with what I did this time. I packed up that volume, but I knew I didn't want to be without it, so I ordered a replacement volume for myself. This is the great M. John Harrison. And this is a collected volume. Who did this? Bantam did a beautiful trade paperback, decal edges, the French flaps, of his Viraconium books. This is all of his Viraconium books set in the fantasy world of Viraconium, including the city of Viraconium, which is so old that it has no idea how old it is. So old that its own history has changed into mythology over time. These novels are old now. M. John Harrison has never returned to the world of Viraconium, but these are great. Absolutely great. And this has everything. If I remember correctly, the Pastel City, Storm of Wings, in Viraconium, the Lamia and Lord Chromus, Viraconium Knights, the Luck in the Head, Strange Great Sins, Lords of Misrule, The Dancer from the Dance, and A Young Man's Journey to Viraconium, all in one beautiful volume. And mine is bespoken. It's in a taped-up box waiting to go out in the mail. So I got a replacement volume. I was responsible this time, and I just have to remember to do that. If I'm gonna learn that somebody doesn't have such and such a book, really want them to have it and want to fire it off, then I should get a replacement. This was very cheap, and it's the volume that I want, obviously. I love the old mass market paperbacks. A lot of the Viraconium books came out as Timescape mass market paperbacks. But I'll take this volume, absolutely. Although, if I could find a mass market Timescape paperback of the book called The Pastel City, which was my introduction to M. John Harrison's Viraconium novels, I would grab it in a heartbeat. I never see it. I never do. But I look. But anyway, let's see what these next ones are. Great. So I have a replacement volume. So if you're watching, you know who you are. The recipient will be getting this and a couple of other goodies in the mail very soon. Not this, but my own copy. Let's see. What is this thing? Oh, I have lots of stuff here. I don't need lots of stuff. I don't need your mother's recipe for bouillabaisse. What have we got here? This is coming out in November. This is Blue-Skinned Gods by S.J. Sindhu. Blue-Skinned Gods. In Tamil Nadu, India, a boy is born with blue skin. His family makes a living off the pilgrims who seek the child's blessings and miracles, believing young Kalki to be the 10th human incarnation of the Hindu god Vishnu. In Kalki's 10th year, he is confronted with trials that prove his divine status, and his father claims spread his fame worldwide. But when Kalki begins to question his divinity, his family unravels. And every relationship he relied on starts falling apart. Traveling from India to the underground rock scene in New York City, the blue-skinned gods explores ethnic, gender, and sexual identities and spans continents, faiths, and in an expansive and heartfelt look at the need for belief in our globally interconnected world. Okay. All right. Well, this comes out in as a hardcover in November. Of course, some of those buzzwords in that description. The description doesn't come from the author, and the book will easily be more than that. Some of the buzzwords in there bug me. Of course, they get my caution up. There's a huge author's note on the back of this thing about the author's inspirations. I read an article about a young girl in rural India who was born with multiple limbs. People in her village believed that she was the goddess incarnate and protested her parents' decision to have the extra limbs amputated. One night I started a short story there in Boston about a boy who grows wings. In the story, everyone around the boy starts to believe that feathers from the wings can heal people, and he almost dies in their pursuit of a miracle by forcibly stripping his wings bare. And the final piece of inspiration was a documentary I watched made by a disillusioned Indian-American filmmaker who pretends to be a Swami and ends up amassing a cult following. I was fascinated by how many people wanted so badly to believe in him that even after he outed himself as a fraud, people believed him to be a god. I began to think about how after I came out as queer, my family became more and more religious, following an Indian Swami named Sai Baba, a figure immersed in scandal and zealotry. Okay, but they might not have done that because of you. The world might not revolve around your decision to come out, which I'm sure was done on social media. And how, in the last decade, India has swung politically right and transformed into a Hindu nationalistic state. Okay. Well, it sounds fascinating. My hackles are up just a bit because a lot of those descriptions of the things that inspired this novel are about people who were born with absolutely indisputable physical attributes. Blue skin, extra limbs, feathers. They were born with absolutely indisputable physical attributes, so you can look at them and see, okay. And I worry about the inevitable 21st century transfiguration of that to questions of sex and gender. But maybe the novel won't do that at all. So we shall see. I will report back in a long time. I won't be reading it during the summer. And oh my, talk about the summer. Summer's about to get here in Boston. It looks like. I've been looking at all kinds of weather data and also at weather forecasts. And oh my, it looks like a genuine heat wave is coming to Boston next week. So it's good. It's right now. It's in the low 70s Fahrenheit. Very nice. A little bit more humid than yesterday. Yesterday was a picture postcard, and the day before that as well. But today a little more humid and overcast. No blue skies. No direct sunlight. But no chance that the high temperature today will reach 80 degrees Fahrenheit. No chance of that at all. Whereas the weekend looks like the temperatures will get very close to 90, and then for several days next week, maybe the bulk of next week, it looks like high 90s Fahrenheit, and maybe even a closing in on triple digits, which for that to happen over the course of a whole week in June is a little bit premature. We shall see. I'm already here. I'm already. This weekend, while the temperatures are still okay, while there are no chance of overheating, no chance of catching a chill, I'm going to give the bean a nice, refreshing BATH. And I have the AC unit. My AC unit was installed in one of the windows. It's a small unit, but this is a small space. I've got a beautiful through flow of air here. I've got a window fan, one of those plastic box fans sitting on the floor, able to move air all around. We've got ceiling fans. I'm as ready as I can be for a heat wave in which my main concern will be safeguarding my little bean. I don't care how hot it gets at all. It can't get hot enough for me. Not at all. But, oh, great. Oh, fantastic. Okay. This is a recommend, just like Viraconium. This is something we've seen before, but this is the finished copy. This is Books Promiscuously Read, Reading as a Way of Life by Heather Cass White. This is the finished copy of Books Promiscuously Read. So let me see. What do we have for? Okay, no, the sheet here is all blurbs. This comes out in early July. Heather Cass White's Books Promiscuously Read is about the pleasures of reading and its power to shape our internal lives. It advocates for a life of constant, disorderly, time-consuming reading and encourages readers to trust in the value of the exhilaration and fascination such reading entails. Trust to the exhilaration. Rather than arguing for the moral value of reading or the preeminence of literature as an aesthetic form, this book illustrates the irreplaceable experience of the self that reading provides for those inclined to do it. Couldn't agree more. Books Promiscuously Read is a tribute to the whole lives readers live in books and aims to recommit people to those lives. As the author writes, quote, "What matters is staying attuned to the ordinary, unflashy, mutely persistent miracle that all the books to be read and all the selves to be because we have read them are still there, still waiting, still undiminished in their power. It is an astonishing joy." And I can attest now, having read this book, that it fills that promise completely. Every year, July 6th, this comes out. You should put it on your list right now, obviously. You should. I mean, Viraconium won't be to everybody's taste, but everybody's watching me now is going to love this book. Every year, we get a batch of books about reading, whether it's collected book reviews, like Salman Rushdie's coming up with one of those, or books like this that explore reading. This is a little bit of both, and it is exhilarating, just exultant. So I strongly, strongly recommend it for you or the diehard reader on your list. It will almost certainly be the year's best book on books, on the joy of reading. Then we have one of these pressed envelopes, not very big. Usually these are quite big. This might not be a finished copy. What have we got here? Oh, what is this? Okay, this comes out in September. Looks like a made-up story. It looks like fiction. Is this going to be a paperback original? Oh, it doesn't tell me. You don't tell me. Okay, well, it doesn't tell me, but what are you? Are you going to tell me? No, this is going to be a $27 hardcover when it comes out in September. This comes out on September 14th. It's by Vince Pissarro, and it's called Crazy Sorrow. With a black and white photograph of a big crowd in New York City, and in the background, the trade towers, the World Trade Towers that fell on September 11th, 2001. Yikes, what a cover. Oh, man. I wonder if this is going to have anything to do with September 11th. Crazy Sorrow. Let's see. Acclaimed novelist, short story writer, essayist, and critic, Vince Pissarro's first novel, 2002's Violence, Nudity, Adult Content. Oh, I read that. Explored a troubled marriage and the dark traumas of mental illness, sexual assault, and murder. And Janet Maslin called it a lacerating debut novel. Now, nearly 20 years later, the author is back with Crazy Sorrow, a novel that is equally provocative and grand in emotional and historical scope. Spanning 4 decades in New York, it tells the story of George and Anna, their lives and loves, the drama of a rapidly changing city. Wait a minute. You're not telling me that this guy wrote his first novel in 2002 and is only now writing his second novel? Could that be true? I didn't think novelists shut up that long. The story opens in the shadow of the new World Trade Center on July the 4th, 1976. I remember that everybody complaining that it was going to be an eyesore. I complained about it because it was just 2 boxes. It's just 2 rectangular boxes. No beauty to it at all. Where students George and Anna party with friends on the night of the nation's bicentennial celebration. George instantly falls for the sensual, magnetic Anna. Soon they are in love, exploring new ideas, books, records, drugs, the city, and themselves. But it is a college romance, soon cut short, and eventually they go their separate ways. The author chronicles the next 4 decades, following George and Anna into adulthood and its pleasures and troubles, relationships and sexual liaisons, both youthful and mature, failed marriages, parenthood, and careers. As the years go by, the one thing remains constant. The former lovers wonder what has happened to each other. Finally, miraculously, they reconnect as the new century is beginning, only to discover that history repeats itself, that history itself will have a say in whether or not they can stay together. Okay, great. I really want to know, though, is this actually... Good Lord, it looks like that's true. It looks like this is actually the author's second novel. Like, he wrote one in 2002 and then just took the next 20 years off. Okay, great. Fantastic. This comes out in September, so I won't be reading it right away anyway. But that's intriguing on its own. Then we have the box. Looks like this is from Amazon, but I checked my Amazon order history, and I don't see anything that's coming. Something's coming tomorrow that's not a book. So this might be a gift from one of you. This is a being giving you her... I know she looks very depressed, but she's not. She's just a little sleepy, that's all. Do we have a note here? Enjoy your gift. Oh, isn't that nice? Good Lord. Okay. This is a gift. So let's see. Let's see what gift we... baby, you can't have this plastic, baby girl. Not good for little babies at all. No. Doing this, if I did that to my old pointer, Malin, it would already be gone. She ate anything that was proffered to her. The tops of metal spoons, wooden sticks, anything that she could get her mouth on, she ate. And she would deal with the consequences, and I would down the line. Frida, not interested. She'll tear it to bits, maybe, but she's not interested in eating anything. So what have we got here? Oh, oh my. Oh, goodness gracious. I swear. All right, well, you know who you are. The other day, I got a copy of The Shores of Light by Edmund Wilson, a collection of his reviews and essays and whatnot. And I brought it back. I realized right away that I already have a copy. I thought it was a double that I could give to somebody. Then I realized the copy that I got from the Brattle was falling apart. The backing was about to break off from the pages. A couple of you suggested that really strong, a particular application of glue would fix that, but I'm not so inclined. I would almost certainly have glued myself to the book or myself to Frida. So I just had to retire the book. That's all. And one of you was watching and got me the Library of America volume of the literary essays and reviews of Edmund Wilson, which I don't have. Well, now I do. Incredible. So this has The Shores of Light. This has Axel's Castle. What else? The cover says Uncollected Reviews, which is very, very enticing. I don't believe that that's completely true. I'm sure that everything in here has been in a book once before, and I'm pretty sure that I must have read everything in here. But what does it have in here? We have The Shores of Light, Axel's Castle, and then the Uncollected Reviews are a piece on H.L. Mencken, a piece on The Wasteland, a piece on Edith Wharton, Guide to Gertrude Stein, George Bernard Shaw Since the War, and a piece on Yeats. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much, the person who sent this. Thank you so much. It was not necessary. The Brattle will provide. But nevertheless, to have Edmund Wilson and to have him in Library of America, of all things, how fitting. Fantastic. And this is going to cause me to binge quite a bit when I shouldn't, when I have other things to do, but I'm still... this is just lovely. How fantastic. And I actually have a shelf out of sight for my Library of America volumes. They're not, most of them are not scattered all around. A couple of them are. But I have a shelf for those, and this might go on there, or it might go in my much abused floor-to-ceiling shelf of books about books, literary stuff, where this is going to go. This is going to have a pride of place there. But where? Where on there is it going to go? There is no room on that bookcase at all. None. We'll figure it out. I have more and more incentive all the time to figure it out because those books aren't going to stop coming in. But anyway, there is your mail for today. We have the Library of America, Edmund Wilson. How fitting is that? We have books promiscuously read. A call to the joy of rambling, messy, non-regimented, and loving reading. Who can beat that? We have Crazy Sorrow by Vince Pissarro. Two one-time lovers tracing their life through the second half of the 20th century, from the bicentennial in 1976 to, I'm assuming, the intrusion of history into their reunion is going to be the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center. Then Blueskin Gods by S.J. Sindhu, very intriguing sounding. We have an older copy. This is the old Bantam paperback of Viraconium by M. John Harrison, collecting all of his Viraconium books. So now a package to a certain someone can go winging off in the mail. And then periodicals, a selection of periodicals, including the new analog about sunny, blue-skied planet Venus. Oh, my. So anyway, there you go. That is the mail for today. It took bloody long enough. I'm hoping that this video uploads and behaves itself. I'm hoping that the audio and the visual is good enough for you to read this and see what I'm talking about. See Frida, which is all that you care about. And I will wrap this up, but I will be back. Thank you, BookTube.